Everything was really quiet that night in my new house, almost too quiet, you know. It was my first time staying there, trying to start over with something new. The house still felt kind of strange, not like home yet, but I was getting there slowly. I was in bed, just lying there, trying to get to sleep, when I first heard these footsteps. They were subtle at first, so much so that I thought I was just imagining things. You know how it is when you're in a new place. Every little sound seems weird or freaky. I brushed it off, thinking I was just getting used to the place. But then, those footsteps didn't stop. Instead, they got louder and clearer. It was like someone was walking around downstairs. That's when I started to feel this chill, like something wasn't right. I mean, hearing footsteps in your house when you're supposed to be alone is not something you can ignore. So, I got out of bed. I remember feeling my heart pounding like crazy as I walked to my bedroom door. The house felt different in the dark, almost like it wasn't mine. I went to the stairs, trying to be quiet as possible. I was scared, but I had to know what was going on. When I got to the staircase, I could tell the footsteps were coming from the bottom. I looked down from the top and saw this guy standing there. He was wearing a mask, and all I could see were his eyes through it, just staring right up at me. He had a knife in his hand. The way the little light from the window hit it, I could see it was sharp. In this muffled voice, because of the mask, the guy then tells me to lock myself in my room. I didn't think twice. I ran back to my room, locked the door, and stood there, trying to figure out what to do. I heard him leave through the front door, but a bit later, I heard the back door slam shut. I grabbed my phone, shaking hands like crazy, and called the cops. Waiting for them to arrive was the longest wait of my life. When the police finally showed up that night, they did a full sweep of the house. They checked every room, closet, and corner, looking for any sign of the intruder or what he might have wanted. It was thorough, but they didn't find anything. No signs of forced entry, nothing stolen, nothing out of place. After they left, the house felt even emptier, colder somehow. I remember walking through the rooms, seeing everything just as I had left it, but it didn't feel the same. It's weird how one incident can change how you see your home. It wasn't a place of comfort anymore. It felt more like a scene from a crime show. From that night on, things were different for me. I started sleeping with a knife by my bed. It sounds paranoid, but it changes you when you've had someone in your house like that. Every little sound at night made me jump, and I'd find myself lying awake, staring at the ceiling, just listening. Two years back, when I was 24, I got my mom's old house. It's in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by all this empty farmland. The place is pretty old. It reminds me of my family's post. At first, it felt like a nice, quiet spot to start fresh. One evening, it was kind of chilly, and I saw this beat-up pickup truck coming up the path to my house. These bright headlights were pretty much the only thing I could see outside. The truck stopped a bit away from the house, and I could just about see someone inside, but couldn't make out who it was or what they were doing. Then, the truck just turned around and left. I figured maybe it was someone lost or something, but it still felt weird. A few days later, the same truck came back, but it was late, and the headlights were off this time, like they were trying to sneak up or something. That got my heart going. I watched from the window as this tall guy got out and walked up to the porch. He stood there for a bit, then returned to his truck and drove away. I called the cops, but they didn't find anything. They had no idea who he was or what he wanted. After that, I was pretty freaked out, especially at night. I kept thinking about the truck and that guy. Then, one night, I heard this loud knock. Woke me right up. It was so quiet that the knock just echoed. I was scared, but I had to check it out. I looked out the window, but the truck wasn't there. I went to the front door and found it a little open. That scared me. I didn't know what to think or do, but I knew I had to close that door. I crept down the hallway, feeling like every step was too loud. The house was super quiet. making it even more nerve-wracking. When I got to the main bedroom, I heard someone moving inside. I couldn't see who it was, but I could hear footsteps, the sound of open drawers, and stuff moving around. I found a spot to hide, trying not to make a sound. The air felt heavy, like every little noise was amplified. I stayed there, holding my breath, hoping whoever it was wouldn't find me. Eventually, the rummaging stopped. I heard footsteps leaving the room, and then the house. I waited for what felt like forever before I finally dared to move. When I came out, the room was messy, like someone had been searching for something specific. I called the cops, but they didn't find any signs of forced entry, and they couldn't figure out who had been in my house or why. After that night, everything felt different. The house didn't feel safe anymore. I kept thinking about the intruder, wondering if they were connected to something from my mom's past, like they were looking for a secret. Relocated for work, I found myself in a small, unfamiliar town. On the first night, I stayed in a rented house that was visibly neglected. Cracks sprawled across the walls, and the ceilings bore water stains. The house, chosen in haste, felt more abandoned than habitable. I inflated an air mattress in the living room, the only area that seemed somewhat welcoming. As I settled in, the house cracked around me, the sounds almost seeming like a protest against my presence. I was jolted awake late at night by a knock at the door. Peering through the window, I saw two shadowy figures standing on the doorstep. Their presence was unsettling. After a few more knocks, they turned and disappeared into the darkness, leaving an eerie silence. Despite feeling unnerved, I tried to return to sleep. The house continued to creak, echoing my discomfort. A new, more sinister disturbance abruptly ended my brief moment of respite. A faint, distinct sound of a window being pried open sent a surge of fear through me. My heart pounded in my chest as I quickly moved to lock the door, my mind racing with thoughts of who could be invading this new, unwelcoming home. I stood still in the dimly lit living room, barely daring to breathe. The sound of footsteps began to echo through the house, each step a clear and terrifying harbinger of an approaching threat. The steps were slow and deliberate, increasing near where I was frozen in place. The tension in the air was palpable, the once empty house now seemingly filled with the presence of an unknown intruder. With each passing second, the footsteps grew louder and more defined. They seemed to be moving with a purpose, each step resonating with a menacing intent. I could almost feel the weight of each footfall, as if the intruder was savoring the growing dread that filled the room. I was standing alone in the dark, the only barrier between me and the intruder being the thin living room door. As the footsteps continued to draw nearer, my fear intensified. It felt like an eternity standing there, waiting for the inevitable. The unknown intentions of the intruder only added to the terror of the moment. The once quiet house now felt like a trap, each creaking groan a reminder of my peril. The morning light revealed a muddy shoe print in the hallway, a stark reminder of the break-in. Police arrived and confirmed it, but they found little else to explain the intruder's motives or their link to the figures at the door. Their lack of findings left me with more questions than answers. As I stood in the house, I felt a deep unease. The walls, with their cracks and water stains, seemed to close in on me. Every creak and groan of the house, which I had previously dismissed, now felt ominous. The silence of the intruders during their invasion lingered in my mind, unsettling me further. The house, chosen for a new beginning, now felt like a symbol of vulnerability. My sense of security had been shattered. Each noise outside and every shadow became a source of worry.